Good morning and welcome back to Rising. The big day is here. It is debate night, which means a very long day of work for you and I. I see we totally unplanned have done a red state, blue state fashion combo today. Always makes me happy when that happens.
Yeah, just throwing people off with where we stand. But
right.
We got the memo.
Right, although you live in a blue state, a red state rather, and I live in Washington, D.C., which isn't a state, but it would be the bluest one ever if it was. So we're matching our regional, we're wearing our regional colors.
Yeah, we are, our home teams.
All right, let's get to it. Well, some big news. Polling guru Nate Silver is predicting that former President Trump has a 66% chance of winning the presidential election. Silver, the founder of 538, cited several likely reasons for Biden's potential loss, including Biden's low approval rating, the economy, saying the average Americans have struggled to see enough gains in their paychecks to keep up with inflation. There's, of course, immigration, and there's the war in Gaza. Silver also says that Biden looks stronger in the popular vote than in the Electoral College, which is interesting.
Silver was already sounding the alarm back in February. At the time, he tweeted, quote, "You don't demonstrate your seriousness, that Trump is an existential threat to democracy by going through the motions to renominate an 81-year-old with a 38% approval rating, who 75% of voters think is too old, without giving anyone a choice, because that's just how things are done. And if Trump were to win, it wouldn't be because corporate America supports him." Take a listen to Chief Executive Leadership Institute CEO Jeffrey Sonnenfeld.
We've been pointing out that there are no Fortune 500 CEOs who are supporting former President Trump. And that is a historic break going back to William Howard Taft and through Calvin Coolidge and Ronald Reagan and the Bushes and everything, is that it's been anywhere from 40 to 60% public and financial support. It's zero now, and it was zero in 2016. And the Trump economic package frightens them. It's extremely inflationary. The tariffs, 10% across the board on all imports, that's just crazy. It leads to a 3% increase for sure in inflation and plunging in the GDP. Right. And that's before retaliatory gestures. The increase in the deficit, he wants to cut $5 trillion of taxes with no commensurate cut in expenditures. So these are problems. He doesn't believe in the independence
but
of the Fed.
what do you say to the CEOs? There's a lot of CEOs who are watching us now, probably watching you speaking, saying, but you know what? I don't like the Biden administration when it comes to the regulatory regime right now. I worry about the tax policy and what's going to happen if the Trump taxes roll off in 2025 and what that debate looks like. I mean, there are folks, as you said, 70% of the CEO community, Republicans. Do they turn out to be reluctant Biden voters? Do they not vote at all? I mean, where do you think they land?
There'll be reluctant Biden voters.
Fox News' Jimmy Fallon fired back at the viral video, tweeting, quote, "Hilarious to watch Dems go from claiming to be the party of the little people to bragging that all the CEOs who are the richest endorse them. Meanwhile, the nation is bracing for a high-stakes Supreme Court ruling regarding Donald Trump and presidential immunity. At the heart of this decision will be the extent presidential immunity can shield a former president from conduct during their time in office. The ruling could signal whether it's possible for special counsel Jack Smith to prosecute Trump on federal charges, or whether he's freed from standing trial related to crimes he allegedly committed while he was in office." So I want to go back to Nate Silver.
Yeah.
I love digging into the empirical research, the statistical analysis that Nate Silver does around polling is highly respected, well-read. When he was at 538, he was the go-to for a lot of people. This model, I looked into the methodology because it's shocking, 66%.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to know where he's getting it from. And I'm not confident, as someone who's used statistical models with political data before to do predictive work, that this model is robust. He goes on to say in his post that we think our model did a good job in 2016. Mm-hmm. This was a model that predicted Trump had a chance of winning of 30% on Election Day. And this model, many people are pointing out, well, it's not the same model, but if you read his methodology papers, he says, well, the 2020 model, we made some changes to adjust for COVID, but other than that, it's essentially the 2016 model. And here he's saying the 2024 model only has the COVID changes taken out. So that means essentially the 2024 model is the 2016 model that predicted horribly.
Well, I mean, but that's the issue with statistics, right? It's not, if you say something has a 30% chance of happening, that doesn't mean it's impossible to happen. That means if you flipped a coin 10 times, 3 of the times you would get that result, right? So I think people have a hard time when they say, like, even with this, Trump has a 66% chance of winning. That doesn't mean he's guaranteed to winning. That means slightly more than half the time, if he could run this experiment a bunch of times, he would be winning. It doesn't mean the other outcome is impossible. It just means it's slightly more likely to do it this way. And I think that's probably accurate of Trump's win in 2016, where it was slightly more unlikely. Now, of course, a lot of the issue was the pronouncements of the pundit class was actually far beyond what the polls were suggesting and what the predictions were saying. The polls were suggesting that it was very close at the end, and it could really go either way. And people were because people couldn't conceive of Trump winning. The pundit class was confidently predicting a Hillary victory, and that's why it looked like, oh, everybody was wrong, everybody missed this. Even though by the end, if you were looking at the data, it was like, oh, this is getting pretty close. In 2020. You had a similar thing where I think the polls were slightly overstating Biden's likelihood of winning. For instance, a lot of the polls had Biden winning Florida, which he ended up losing. So Trump he overperformed a little bit of the fundamentals while still losing. So the question here is, has there been too much correction in the other direction, where they're giving Trump more of a chance than he actually has? I don't think that's the case. My gut feeling is that this is pretty close, and Trump, as of this moment in time, is slightly favored to win. I don't know if I'd put it at 66%. I would put it above 50% for sure.
I think my issue with it is Nate Silver's extensive work does not demonstrate that backtesting the model with the existing data to predict elections in the past. There's no description of what that looks like. So we have no idea if this model is accurate at all. And it feels like a lot of work to put into a model that I think most people could say, like, yeah, Trump's probably more likely to win. Like, how much is it worth it for Nate Silver to put this amount of effort into developing a model that seemingly isn't that predictive? I think it's a waste of a lot of resources, and it's such a horse race.
We only do the election one time. We've only had, however, 45 presidential elections in the history of the country, so it's hard to statistically model it. But what he's looking at is, the swing states, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, all states that Biden won last time that helped solidify his victory over Trump. Those are all looking like Trump pickups right now. And then it comes down to, again, the 2016 states that flipped the election for Trump: Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Trump won the election versus Hillary because he won those 3 states when Hillary was expected to win. So if Biden can still hold on to those states, even as Trump picks up Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, then it will be. I think then the numbers are like 270 to 268 by the narrowest possible conceivable margin. Biden would be reelected. However, he could have problems in Michigan because of the Arab American vote. He could have problems in Pennsylvania because Trump is really trying with labor, with the white working class. And then if anything else goes wrong anywhere on the board, if Biden suffers an unexpected loss anywhere else, his goose is cooked. So that's why things are in Trump's direction. Biden's not out of it because those polls in the Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin corridor are still pretty neck and neck there. And, inflation's gotten a little bit better. It seems, according to Nate Silver, that Trump's gotten a little sliver of damage to his support because of the trial conviction. Again, it's very slight, but we're talking about a small number of voters in these swing states that are going to end up deciding things. So it's interesting. We should note the point about the CEOs. Yes, the richest people in the country have a lot of contempt for Donald Trump. That is very obvious. Now, Trump is trying to make overtures to the business community right now. He obviously had that very successful meeting with the elite business roundtable, where he talked about having a better regulatory environment, doing tax cuts. It was interesting to hear that guy go, slamming Trump for tariffs. Biden has just implemented by executive fiat really aggressive tariffs. Frankly, both candidates are in favor of tariffs that I find ruinous to the economic situation of our country and that are opposed by a lot of business people. But I don't know that it's the case that I think business people are certainly not as against Trump as they were previously.
I couldn't disagree more. I think CEOs are afraid to make a statement in public about something like this, and I think that's what they're avoiding. They see the kind of backlash that a lot of big companies get when they pick sides politically, and I think most CEOs love Donald Trump because thanks to his corporate profits tax cuts and his rolling back of regulations, they've seen their profits increase from around $2 trillion annually to around $3 trillion on an annual basis. So an increase of 50%. That's very significant. Yeah. We saw that happen during Trump's administration. He brags that it's thanks to his policies. So they might not want to say, like, yes, the CEO of X company endorses Trump,
right.
and then people boycott.
They like his policies. They can't say they support him.
Exactly, but he's very good for big business,
circles.
And I would say rich people in the country actually quite like Donald Trump.
Yeah. All right, we'll have more Rising right after this.